Hey Jude. So when I'm driving my four daughters to school and we are ending our morning prayer, I usually end with, and we pray that our family is happy, holy, and healthy. Assuming I say our morning prayer and I'm not thinking of 50 other things that I need to do that day. Because that is, as I said in the last video, that is my main goal, to raise them to be happy, holy, and healthy. I want well-rounded children. I don't want children that are striving for holiness, but they're miserable. I don't want happy children that have no relationship with the Lord. So today I'm going to give you some things to think about that I have learned that will hopefully lead to raising happy, holy, and healthy children. As always, I will lead with a disclaimer that these are things that work for me. They may not fit every family. I don't think that I have all the answers because I've raised a child to the ripe old age of 8. So basically, again, this is just a whole bunch of food for thought. You may have heard that you can't give what you don't have, or that you can't pour from an empty cup. Everything that I'm about to share with you requires your own growth. Because if you struggle with one of these areas, then that means that you need to work on that too, which I think is awesome, because that means that having children leads us to become better people, that we can't settle, that we don't have the luxury of settling. So the first one, happy, I'm going to lead with that one because right from the start, I want to make sure that it's clear that I don't think that our children are always going to be happy or should always be happy. In fact, I think happiness is overrated. But alas, I do not think that alliteration is overrated. So there you go. Happy, healthy, holy. For the sake of this video, though, let's assume that when I'm talking about happy, I'm actually talking about joy and joyfulness. From here on out, I'm going to refer to it that way. Because what is happy? It's a temporary feeling that you get from something pleasurable. Joyfulness is a long-lasting thing that you get because you know that no matter what, that you are complete in the Lord and that He's going to take care of you no matter what. It's a sense of completeness. Shoot, St. Lawrence is the patron saint of comedians because while he was being roasted on a spit, he told them at one point, "I'm well on this side, well done on this side, turn me over." Obviously, he probably wasn't too happy in that moment, but he still knew joy, and he showed it with a whole bunch of snark, which I love. So how do we raise joyful children? By modeling it. That's all this video is basically talking about a bunch of different things that you can model for your kids. In many ways with our words, thanking them a lot. Joyful people are gracious and appreciative people. You know, do you want them to show thanks to you? That's a complaint you hear a lot with parents. My kids never thank me for anything. They just complain. How often are you thanking them? You should probably thank them, I'd say 10 times more than you expect to be thanked. Eventually, that kind of thing will rub off on them. Finding joy in bad situations. Do you always need to have a happy face? No. We have experienced a lot of loss in our family over the years. We grieve. Grieving is important. But we show them that we can find joy in having loved these people, having experienced their goodness in the life that someone led. In times of sickness, shoot, just by gaining the insight, gaining empathy for someone who's gone through something similar to you. Many times people find their joy in suffering because that can give them an opportunity to lift it up as an offering for someone in prayer for their intentions. Through loving words. In our family, every time we think that we love someone, we say it. Even if we said it 50 times before that. That way, it's a knee-jerk reaction when someone is annoyed by their child or their spouse. We just automatically say it. And so that's a great habit to get into. And, you know, with all of these things, with finding joy, with thanking children, with all these things, make sure you're saying it. You're saying it a lot. You're expressing all these feelings to them. So you're not just thinking it, but you're expressing it and they know how you feel. If you want kids to be joyful, live joyfully. And this may, I would say, be one of the hardest things for parents to do, because there are going to be days where you feel anything but that. And I certainly get that. If you don't feel like you are there, even generally speaking, don't worry. Take this to God, bring it to him, ask him to overwhelm you with joy. He loves to provide that for you and opportunities for that. Read the Bible, look into the saints, read a book about joy, find ways to seek it out. That is a great example to your children, that you're not settling when it comes to joy, that you want to seek it out. The next one is healthy, and sweet fancy Moses, this may be my favorite one. One of the most favorite aspects that I have of the Catholic Church, and if you've ever been 10 feet from me, you may have heard me say this, is that the church recognizes the health of the entire person. We recognize and acknowledge the mental, the physical, and the spiritual health of everyone. You know, as far as the physical health, the church has made this clear that we recognize that our body is a temple and that we should treat it that way. But I do think that the average parent has gotten on board with at least the idea that we're supposed to raise them to eat well, to have activity and things like that. So I'm not going to harp a lot on like the food pyramid or whatever they're selling us these days. Spiritual, that aspect, I will cover that a lot in the holiness. And so that leaves us with mental health. Yay! So this, is probably my favorite part. I have worked at St. Jude since 2007. And before that, I volunteered in youth ministry since 2000. So for the last 20 years, I have seen the path of how mental health can affect young people. And I cannot express how important it is that we take this seriously. A child's mental health can affect every single part of their life. And obviously we know that it doesn't just stop in childhood if there's not, interventions, that it can continue and get worse as things get older. In the last few years, I have recently started to see parents start to recognize this. And I don't say that as to be negative about previous generations of parents. I think that is happening because the current younger generations, myself included, younger generations of parents, we have gone through counseling. It's not unusual for someone to go to counseling. People have sought psychiatric drugs. If you haven't done it, your friends probably have. So in our friendship groups, this is not weird. This is not a foreign thing to us. But regardless of where you're at in your feelings and all of that, it's still important to improve. And so what are some of the ways that we can raise mentally healthy children? Modeling. It's probably one of my favorite words in this video. Model it. One morning when we were getting ready for school, one of my children was having just an epic meltdown, and I was ready to lose my mind. So, normally when this child has an issue or an angry outburst or things like that, it's fairly easy to get her to calm down if you're able to just sit with her and talk about it with her and just basically love her through it. But Mama didn't have time for that morning because we were running late for school and I needed to load them all up in the car. And so my reaction was to raise my voice and use an angry tone. And that went over great, or not at all. So once we got loaded into the car and we're on our way, I had a moment to think about what had just happened. And, I told the girls I was very sorry for how I spoke to them and how I reacted. And that sometimes when lots of things are going on and the day is getting kind of crazy, that can lead to mom feeling anxious, and anxiousness can lead to irritation and anger. But that was still not okay that I reacted that way. So, and I was going to do something to stop that from happening in the future. And so later that day, I called up the lovely counselors at the Franciscan Life Process Center in town, and I set up an appointment to just go chat with them about that. It is important that we model how necessary it is that we take care of ourselves so that our kids know that that's what they should do in that situation. You have an issue, you do something to solve that problem. It is so important that we talk about that, talking to them about things that we need to work on ourselves, so that they don't think that adults are supposed to be perfect and flawless. Because obviously we know that. We know that as you become an adult, you're not perfect, but I don't know that children realize that. And so it's important that we voice that. Every once in a while, we'll go around in the car and we'll talk about something that we're going to work on that day, me included. And so I talk about things that I haven't been doing well with, patience, unkind words. Sometimes the kids like to offer a suggestion for me. But it's important that we show that we need to work on things too. Normalizing working on mental health. You would not hesitate to take a kid to the doctor if they were showing signs of diabetes. And you wouldn't act awkward and make a big deal out of it either. So why do we hesitate to take our kids to the therapist when they're showing signs of anxiety or depression? That is not a negative reflection on how I have parented. That doesn't make me a bad parent, just like it doesn't make you a bad parent if your kid is going to the doctor for some reason. If we make a big deal out of it, they will too. Trauma, if a trauma happens to your child, that should equal a trip to the therapist. Just like if a kid breaks their arm, you take them to the ER. You don't sit around and think about, is that a good idea or not? You realize that is just what you do. If you want your kids to be healthy, show them how to be healthy in all areas. What is an area that you need to work on? I have an endless need to work on healthiness, what I eat, and things, and how I treat my body in that way. What is an area that you need to work on? The final part to my parenting trilogy is holiness. It is certainly a last but not least situation. Just as you need to feed your children's body with good, healthy foods, you need to feed your children's need for spirituality in a relationship with God. And I don't mean in a spiritual, not religious kind of way. As a parent, you are the most important example to your children of having faith in your life. And that can be a good thing or that can be a bad thing. Which do you choose? And this is true for both the mom and the dad. This is not a situation of the woman deals with all the God stuff, and the man, that's not really what the men deal with. This has to be a both and for mom and dad. And statistics show that it's not uncommon for the man to be a bigger influence and in faith in a child's life. And the most important way that you can do that is by seeking spiritual growth as well. And that's great because obviously you're going to benefit from that too. It's not just, it's a gift for both of you. I am just basically going to list off a couple different ways that you can encourage the increase in faith in your child's life, but most specifically your Catholic faith. Number 1, go to Mass. This is the most obvious answer. You probably could have guessed that I was going to be doing this, but it is, I would say, still something that families often put on the back burner for many reasons. Difficulty, other activities, lack of desire. If you make Mass a priority over all other things, it sends a big message to your kids. I have 4 kids 8 and under. So as you can guess, I understand this. My youngest has just recently become unbeast-like in Mass. Not sure how it happened. Spiritual intervention, God-like intervention, I don't know how. It was probably not me. And so if anybody knows what it's like to have a difficult time in Mass, it's certainly me. But even if that has meant that Sunday after Sunday, I am in the back of church with my kid, I am still showing that effort. And God appreciates that effort. I'm showing the effort that it's important to do that. And most importantly, I'm still receiving graces, even if I'm in the back. Even if I missed that reading because I was, dealing with my kid, I'm still receiving the graces from going to church. God is good like that. It is also important that we show them how to attend Mass. If you look half asleep or apathetic, dazed and confused, they will too. If you take off after communion, that tells them that the rest of Mass is not important and unnecessary. And that will probably be the pattern for the rest of their lives because they've seen that modeled for them. So in conclusion, go to Mass. Your children may thank you for it and having that constant in their life years from now. Pray. Pray before meals. Pray before school. Pray before bedtime. Pray a lot. I find that doing this and giving them an opportunity to praying for their own intentions has given me a tremendous insight into their cares and concerns going on in their daily lives. I hear about issues, praying about a test that day, praying about an issue with a friend. It has really been very helpful for me to do that. And so I've learned a lot from that too. Talk about it a lot. Talk about your faith. I try to have teachable moments about faith all the time, to the extent that I have to sometimes pull myself back a little bit because, maybe it's they can just eat that sandwich and not have to learn a lesson about the Trinity somehow. Show them that their faith is intertwined in all acts of daily life and even in the most mundane. Encourage questions. Show your children that you do not expect them, that the church does not expect them to be ignorant robots, that they just need to follow what we say and not know why. It's very important that they know why. It's great to ask questions. The apostles asked questions a lot. There is no dumb question when it comes to your faith. And if you don't know the answer to it, don't tell them some made-up answer. Say, I'd love to look into that for you, and I'm going to get back to you on that. It is not uncommon, regardless of my profession, regardless of where I am at my faith, for my kids to ask me a question that I do not know the answer to. So I check it out and I get back to them. Liturgical decorating. I spoke about this in a previous video. Basically, it's just the idea that you decorate for liturgical seasons, and it's a great way to teach them about the church, and it's also fun and pretty, so that's fun. And you can find out more about that in that video. Getting involved in the parish community. I think this is huge, and it can be overwhelming because you got 800 different things on your plate already with schedules, but it really is important. This is, obviously harder right now, but typically, go to coffee after Mass, pancake breakfast, daily Mass, confession, picnics. Have their childhood be filled with memories of times at church, so that when they go to college, they know that is a solid thing. They know they need to check out what parish community situation is, so they can have a solid place to fall back on. That they know that when they come home from college, that they are coming back to their faith community at St. Jude, that they're welcome here, that we want them here. Don't let church just be a thing that they go to sometimes on Sundays and, whenever they're going to do a sacrament. Make it a part of their daily life. Here's a random plug that I just like to throw in there. Watch the show The Chosen with your family. It's a show about Jesus's life in his ministry. And I tell you, it has been a life changer for myself, my kids, the older two specifically, my 7 and 8-year-old, really got a lot out of it. And it is a great way to open up discussion and also just show Jesus as a human. Showing Jesus with a sense of humor, showing Jesus being worried about his upcoming, struggles. So I'd really encourage you to check that out. And if you have any questions about that, I'd love to tell you in another way. The best thing that we can do for our children is to show them that we want them to embrace their entire selves, that we want them to feel whole. And the best way for them to do that is to seek out a relationship with God and for him to use us as instruments in that journey. Don't let the weight of this responsibility be a stress, weigh you down, something that you worry about. Let it empower you. you have the greatest influence on what kind of an adult your child will become. That is awesome. Take joy in that it's you and not, the world. Yes, they do have an influence, certainly, but you are the greatest influence. Everything I've said in this video is obviously just from my own experiences. What I've learned in ministry and parenting so far, it will not apply to everyone. Some of my suggestions may be great. Some of them will fall flat. But I just hope that bringing up this idea that we can raise happy, healthy, and holy kids just shows you that it is both possible and that it is a great goal to have. I really thank you for letting me talk to you about this. It's something I get very excited about talking about. And so it's a joy and a blessing for me. And I pray that as we end this liturgical year in the next couple of weeks, that it can be filled with grace and with love and with joy for you and your family. Thank you so much.